Peace, good evening. Welcome to Writing on the Wall, a presentation of Incarcerated Nations Network and Wide Awake Chicago. Tonight we're going to have two projections on two different iconic buildings here in the city, out south, the Stony Island Arts Bank, and downtown at the Poetry Foundation, 61 West Superior. The goal for tonight, if there is a goal, is to get you to check out the projections written by incarcerated prisoners, reflect on what you're reading, see work from ancestors and from freedom fighters, and then a call to action for you. We hope you enjoy our program. Thank you. Enjoy the show. All right, that's good.
So it's a bit of a long story, but it began when I started getting a lot of letters from people in prison. I was working as a journalist. I had done a whole series of pieces that related to the music industry and criminal justice. Long story short, I just was getting letters from people in prison, and one of them was an invitation from a Latino group in a maximum security prison called Chewangunk, and they were basically running educational programs, and they invited me inside. At one of those sessions, somebody came up to me who was a superintendent in a nearby facility, and he said, "Oh, you teach at John Jay. Why doesn't John Jay have any program in the prison?" And at that time, there were still very few college programs throughout the country, let alone in New York State, because of the 1994 bill, which eliminated financial aid for incarcerated students and decimated the college program landscape throughout the country. So I just kept going back, and I'd bring other professors and other just friends, people, anyone who would go with me. And that led to the birth of the Prison to College Pipeline.
Sadly, there are a lot of people who've been in prison for decades whom still don't even understand why they are incarcerated, because they've always just been taught to regurgitate what they see, what is, as opposed to reimagining. I feel as all people should be able to at least obtain some type of education in pursuit of bettering themselves and having social mobility in the context of the society we live in.
Being a part of the college experience within the prison system, it's great because it helps you to normalize yourself in an abnormal environment, as opposed to allowing myself to be caught up in prison politics over here doing essays and math problems in order to make a better situation for myself once I'm released.
Education allows you to explore other things that you wouldn't actually be exposed to, especially in the prison environment. Most of the individuals who actually are in prison are limited to the resources that's in the library or what the prison allows to come in to read. So when you have programs like the Prison to College Pipeline, to be able to bring other things and other ideas in, it allows you to explore a little bit more and dig deeper into yourself, because it's a journey. People change from day to day, from minute to minute. I don't think I was the same person yesterday.
So I met Hank at the Schomburg Center, actually. I went to a talk, and he was part of a panel, and afterward we started chatting. And so we organized it, and he came in over the summer and taught a guest class, which was great. Hank's creative process is very rigorous. He would always question and come back and say, "Oh, but maybe, and maybe." And so we went through a bunch of different ideas, and nothing was quite right. And then I remember we were in my apartment one night trying to brainstorm, and I opened my closet door, and there was a stack of papers like this high. And he said, "What is that?" So I said, "That's just like writing from prison." And he seized upon it and was like, "Let's go through it." And he started looking at it, and he started laying it out on the floor and saying, "This is it. This is exactly what we need to put up. Let's just wallpaper the space. This says it all."
when Hank spoke to us about this ongoing project, when he asked us to think about re-envisioning it as a traveling exhibition that might go outside. We were honored and thrilled to participate any way we could. Physically, it's composed of 3 cellular spaces that are 6 feet by 9 feet in dimension, which roughly reference the average individual cell size. In prison cells, it's not uncommon to find layers of writing on top of writing on top of writing. It can start to feel like time has stopped, and the only way of indicating that time is passing is to make marks. That led us to this notion of building the walls out of layers of writing.
It really is a window into an aspect of our society that most people don't have any access to. It does frame the voices of the many people who are in prison, but it also is open-ended. There isn't a predictable and simple kind of way to deduce it. It really is as expansive as the writing of the people in it and their own creativity and their own sense of self and the viewer's willingness to engage. It's not an installation that requires you to read every page and every minute. It's just saying, engage. And if you read 1 line or 2 lines, or you read 5 pages, or you spend an hour and sit on the floor, as I've seen people do, people can enter and exit at their own point.
A person still gets to take away something with them every time they come and visit it. They don't have anything that's tangible, but something that, that's beyond tangible.
These pieces have been written by people who I've met all across the world. Honestly, these are our leaders. They have the brightest ideas in the world because they're not subjugated to getting the bills paid and running for the train. They're in isolated places where they're thinking about things critically down to the T.
Just as vast as there are people in society is the same vastness that you'll find within the prison system. All walks of life.
We need to be utilizing their talents in better ways, and the writing on the wall is just a stroke on the brush of the things in which they can actually paint. Yeah, and the proximity, right? Like the installation allows people to actually have some type of proximity to the issue at hand. Because sadly, a lot of society are not exposed to the ways in which mass incarceration has decimated communities. This is why it's in a public space. And this is why we're doing the tour, so that people can engage in the space and we can have dialogue and conversation, and even talk about the stigmatization that comes along with as a result of. As human beings, we need to recognize that the worst thing that you can possibly do to a human being is incapacitate them.
If people are able to understand that prisons do not make us safer as a world, as a community, then we are moving in the right direction. And then we activate that into policy.
Art generally is something that actually connects people, is a medium that supersedes language. You walk by people every day. Your interactions with people are what make the world go round. When you don't have those interactions, what is life about? What is life about? It becomes a little bit meaningless.
To show them the way. No one sees you all the same. Great leader, your time is now. I check out well the situation. Destruction is on the land. Confusion, aggravation, disaster now, yes. It's spreading all over, it's spreading all over, spreading all over, spreading.
M-I-S-S-I S-S-I-P-P-I. Were you there when they did what they did to that boy? Were you there when they did what they did to that boy? Were you there when they snatched him out in Uncle's house? Oh, were you there when they snatched him out in Uncle's house? Oh, Lord, were you there when they led him to the wife? Were you there when they led him to the wife? Is this him? 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 Were you there? Were you there when they brought him to the barn? Were you there? Were you there when they brought him to the barn? Were you there when they picked up a brick and played touchdown with them face? Were you there? Were you there when they picked up a brick and played touchdown with them face? Oh Lord, were you there? Were you there when they took a fan belt, tied around his neck and threw him in the river? Oh, were you there? Were you there when they took a fan belt, tied around his neck and threw him in the river? Oh, were you there? Were you there? See him body weight in the water all night long. Were you there? Were you there? Feel him body weight in the water all night long. Were you there? Were you there? Smell him body weight in the water all night long. Were you there? Were you there? Him body weight in the water all night long. But were you there? Were you there when a mama, when I got the call? Were you there? Were you there when a mama, when I got the call? They got in it, 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 they got in it. White boys got in it, hey, they got in it, they got in it, they got in it. Were you there? Were you there when they showed her mother, when they showed her son? Were you there? Hey, were you there when they showed her mother, when they showed her son? Were you there? Were you there? Hear her scream till I got weak in the knees. Were you there? Were you there? Hear her scream till I got weak in the knees, Lord. Were you there? Were you there? See God cheering. See them all dressed in black. Were you there? Were you there? See God cheering. See them all dressed in black. Were you there? Were you there? Your brothers cry. See sisters faint. Hey, were you there? Were you there? Hear brothers cry. See sisters faint. Oh, were you there? Were you there? Hear that white boy brag about what he had done. Got me one of them red bone niggas. One of them green-eyed niggas. One of them staring niggas. Hey, where you there? 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 Hear that jury come back and say not guilty. Were you there? Were you there? Were you here? Hear that jury come back and say not guilty. Were you there? Are you here? Juries keep coming back saying not guilty. Were you there? Are you here? Juries keep coming back saying not guilty. Now tell me who wanna offend? Who gonna raise Emmett's children? Who gonna dry his mama's tears? Who gonna stand for Emmett? Who gonna write for Emmett? Who gonna breathe for Emmett? Who gonna live? Who gonna live? Hell! Who gonna live? 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 Who gonna live?
With instruments in our hands and songs of hope and freedom in front of us, we gather and play to put our abandoned, weary souls at ease. We gather to hear each other, see each other through the music we make. We gather to honor the life and legacy of Elijah McClain. Also gather believing that the collective sound of our strings vibrating will continue to speak justice even when our voices get tired. Every note played tonight will bring Black music matters, Black joy matters, Black grief matters, Black lives matter.
Correctional Center, which is a maximum security prison in Crest Hill, Illinois. PNAP actually has 14-week semesters where we teach college level curriculum for men on the inside, whether that's literature courses, history.
Particularly with people who are incarcerated. PNAP's been around for a minute. The depth of the work that you guys do with the prisoners in that program, have some of those results been from the work that you all have seen?
Well, there's been some amazing, because we're not just only writing, we're also visual arts, history, teaching political science as well. So even just seeing other projection work, other exhibition work that's happened, actual writings, like bound writings, some of the poetry that men have written, and also all of the advocacy around actually getting men, in particular men who were tortured by John Burge here in Chicago, trying to get their freedom. So I'm actually going to read in a little bit a poem from Gerald Reed, who's actually on the inside in Stateville, and also 2 poems by men who've been released who are actual victims as well.
Let's get it.
Okay, let's jump into it. So really quick, I'm going to read 3 writings, one from Patrick Pursley, who was released in 2017, Eric Blackman, who was just released in 2019, and then finally Gerald Reed. Really quick, Patrick spent 23 years in prison for a wrongful murder conviction, and luckily I had a chance to meet him soon after he was released from prison. So really quickly, I'm going to read this amazing poem by Patrick Pursley, and it's entitled "The Lost I Am." I am fire and brimstone. I am the second coming in the zone. I am the peasant, the peon, the non-affiliated, the neutron. I am the king without a throne, the follower disciple, the rolling stone, riddled with vice. I am the persistent idea that can't be stifled. I am nothing nice. I am the prisoner, the suffrage, the languishing slang. I am the nigger with no name, buried in an unmarked grave. I am the suffering product of America's capital gain. I am the venom and the anecdote, the unspoken word, the forgotten quote. I am the sun-kissed silence, the restrained violence within a movement of anti-violence. I am the black dawn of gratitude, the cry of freedom and the echoes of solitude. I am heretofore until I am here no more. And that was a poem by Patrick Pursley, who again was released after spending 23 years in prison in 2017. Next up, just really quickly, I'm going to read a poem by Eric Blackman, who actually was just released. His charges were dropped in January 2019, and he spent nearly 16 years in prison. And so what's interesting about Eric, I haven't had a chance to meet him, but he actually became a paralegal when he was actually in Stateville.
Okay.
And so Eric, Patrick, and Gerald took classes with PNAP, including arts class. So I'm going to read this really quickly from Eric Blackman. And this was called 16. 15 years, 7 months, 4 weeks, 1 day, 16 hours, and 33 minutes to be exact. 5,724 dreadful days, 137,416 and a half hours, 8,244,993 miserable minutes. And I won't forget a second of it. I missed 66 of my kids' birthdays, 337 holidays, 16 vacations, 14 graduations, 11 funerals. First steps, first words, all of my 20s, half of my 30s, most of my life, I lost everything. Every dime I had, 4 pills, friends, family, my fiance, my relationship with my kids. At times, I lost faith. Other times, I lost hope. A few times, I even lost myself. But I survived. I survived the conditions. I survived the ornery, tyrannical officers, some wolfish, vulturous inmates. A stabbing, being jumped, 2 black eyes, 2 busted lips, 1 chipped tooth, a busted head, 6 stitches, 1 broken nose, 1 fractured arm, 1 concussion. The suffering, the pain, the loss. But I overcame, I endured. but never hearing, never seeing, never speaking, never caring, never feeling, never loving, never resting, never giving up. For 15 years, 7 months, 4 weeks, 1 day, 16 hours, and 33 minutes to be exact, 5,724 dreadful days, 137,416 and a half hours, 8,244,993 miserable minutes, all for a crime I didn't commit. And I can't forget a second of it, but who's counting? Whoa. Powerful, right? Whoa. This is the brother that actually represented himself in court to overturn his conviction. So the amazing work of these men in general, right? And the family, everyone that supports them to get them out, but having a program like PNAP, when a lot of the funding to actually do educational programs in prisons has left. I'm gonna read one little bit before we go. We got a little bit of time. So I want to give a shout out to one of my students, Gerald Reed, who actually was introduced to me as Elijah. And unlike Patrick and Eric, Gerald or Elijah actually is still locked up. He's trying to get his freedom after 28 years, I'm sorry. So Elijah is one of the over 100 torture survivors of John Burns. Motorcycle. And while he was granted a new trial in 2018 and February 2020, a new judge assigned his case ruled that he should stay in prison to serve out his life sentence. And we're still trying to free Gerald Reed.
So for writers who might be watching, for people who actually teach and teach creative writing and things of that nature, how can they get down with PNAP?
So I wanted to say really quick, you can check out PNAP at our website, p-nap.org. We're also on Instagram at pnap_IL, like Illinois, Twitter at Arts Prison, or Facebook at PNAP Shy. And just really quick before I go, we got a PNAP fundraiser, which actually drops tomorrow, August 29th. It's called A Goal We All Need. That's going to have the online sale of artworks, books, etc. You can check it out again at A Goal We All Need. And just wanted to say this, if you also want to just do donations for brothers who are on the inside, you can Venmo PNAP at p-nap or PayPal at contactpnap@gmail.com. The last bit I'm going to say again, free Gerald Reed, free all Burrs torture survivors, and tell Mayor Lightfoot and the City Council to find the money to support the winning Chicago Torture Justice Memorial design called Breath, Form, and Freedom, which was designed by Patricia Wynn and John Lee. Thank y'all for having me out.
So dig it. The Writing on the Wall tonight, live from the Stony Island Arts Bank, and we're at Mana Collective. What did I say that? Wrong. Mana Contemporary Chicago, over on 22nd and True. We really appreciate you all watching. The Writing on the Wall has a website. It is twotw.org, twotw.org. At the end of the program, will be information about everything. There is a call to action for you from my man, Jose Perla. Right now, though, the rest of the program, Sadie Woods, Tanika Johnson, you're going to see some ancestors, you're going to see some freedom fighters. But right now, here's Black Thought. Peace from Chicago. Be well. Peace, y'all.
To a black person, to a brown or indigenous person in America, what is your 4th of July? If not a day that reveals to us, more than any other day of the year, the bold-faced injustice, cruelty, and oppression of which we have been the constant victim, the butt of the American joke. Because to us, your celebration is a sham. All the talk of liberty and national greatness is just to feed the American ego. The sounds of celebration and rejoicing are empty, heartless. All this talk about down with tyranny and equality this and justice that, it's a fraud. Actually, it's a mockery. Because the prayers the hymns, all the sermons and giving thanks, all the pomp and circumstance, and oh, this great nation, it means nothing. It's a mere facade, a placebo. We are a nation of hypocrites. Why should I commemorate the independence of a country, the freedom of a country within which I am not free? My children are not free. Neither were my parents. We fight for freedom to live, think, and speak freely. People have died for freedom. But I wasn't free in 1620, 17, or 18, or 1920, and I'm not free today, so let's talk about it. There is no nation on earth guilty of more crimes, of more shocking and bloody practices than the United States of America. That's why, instead of celebrating your Independence Day, those of us who are wide awake will continue to celebrate our interdependence upon one another. Because we all we got. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up.
Anytime. Anytime the black man attempts to change the slave image, he will scare white people. Blacks are not free in the United States to this very day, so we have not accomplished freedom. I hope that we laid down a history
I wonder on which side of the lines I belong.
And contributed to the continuing struggle for freedom.
Who the devil on the real side? Who got rich from Armenian genocide? Who the biggest terrorist? Who changed the Bible? Who killed the most people? Who do the most evil? Who don't worry about survival? Who have the colonies? Who stole the most land? Who rule the world? Who say they good but only do evil?
Everybody.
Who killed Huey Newton, Fred Hampton, Medgar Evers, Michael Smith, Walter Rodney?
Everybody. Every goddamn body.
It's imperative we change the narrative.
In just a few moments, we will hear from the most powerful black man in America today.
Everybody.
I don't think you heard me. The most powerful black man in the world.
Hey, yo, they ask why I seem so solemn. On a throne between 3 stone columns. You know the name, fucking up the game, no condoms. Everybody goddamn first world problem. The truth is inconvenient as non-believers. Fearing DACA dreamers instead of FEMA. Bentley, Benz, or a Beamer, Fiji, or Aquafina. You fuck around and be the next Iwo Jima. The tide's rising at the same time like they synchronize. For making art, for making love, for making highs. The home is where the hatred lies. They taking lives, but everybody just so saved and sanctified. Then they rely upon we the few defiant ones. Communicating in higher forms than Viacom. To dialogue before the roar of the riot horn. I wonder on which side of the lines I belong. Lady Liberty, face full of concealer. I'm half master killer and half you master killer. Latrophobia, that's a fear of the healer. Kaepernick is an activist, y'all in fear of the kneeler.
Blood that cries out from the grave of my ancestors who went to an untimely death at the hands of the white wicked slave traders. I believe that they cry out. Their spirit is around me, and their spirit emanates from me. And I believe that as a righteous man of God, but as a freedom fighter and a revolutionary, it is one of the greatest honors that could be paid.
Another young life was lost on Livestream.
After our 500 to 6,000 year Holocaust, where we have lost over 600 million, I believe the education process must be a process of two steps: inspiration and information. So I seriously give information, but black people are people of rhythm and spirit, so I also give inspiration.
Everything's obtuse, nothing is obscene. Another young life was lost on Livestream. Another great fell from grace and high steam. Then the clock struck 13, we in some kind of dream. First I'm handling first things, decipher what it means to a planet of earthlings. Where the question remains, am I a journalist? Herbal eternalist, Olympic tournament level genius, author affirmative. No turning back and returning, I'm not concerned with it. The permanent ink paved the way out the turbulence. My hands against the wall outside a billiards hall. I hear police discussing whether to try and kill
everybody.
You ask me whether I approve of violence. When someone asks me about violence, I just find it incredible. Because what it means is that the person who's asking that question has absolutely no idea what black people have gone through, what black people have experienced in this country. The real content of any kind of revolutionary thrust lies in the principles and the goals that you're striving for, not in the way you reach them.
My question, if that'd matter, life's like a tree that falls in the woods, even with our phone footage to see it fall. Great men chose the paper-made pen, a state pen, the firing pin of a pistol aimed at a playpen. We go from musket to a missile, to a revelation between heaven and Satan, while I'm steady creating and trying to separate the truth from the lies that they told us. I even heard the Soviets, the 45th POTUS, that ain't the photo they showed us, or accepting the onus. Did they Washington us? My condolence to y'all diplomas. Here's a bonus, the point of view to make things see through. If I'm a walking institution, I'm an HBCU. Face the music, keeping it moving's one of the great things we do. Yo, the devil trying to put together his gang, me too. And whether you come from Lagos or Trinidad and Tobago, you can either stay broke or be wealthy as Jeff Bezos if you just stay broke. I was in the dark, then they broke. Direct the questions to my ancestors until they spoke now. Inherently rocking the disco currently. Bars is cryptocurrency, hypnotherapy, shitting on everything. 5'9", 6'4" lyrically, crystal clarity. Wonder how I spit so thoroughly. Stay so hungry, rappers can't get no mercy. That's the reason any other one who spit won't verse me.
It is a terrible thing for an entire people to surrender to the notion that 1/9 of its population is beneath them. When we, the American people, accept the fact I'm not an object of missionary charity, I am one of the people who built the country.
You're so lonely in my own class, formerly known as is the inscription that your headstone has. On my own path, in my own world like Disney's. I feel a fucking system failed just like kidneys. Up steps, the one who upsets all carriages, cause it's imperative we change the narrative. Yeah, and that's thought verse everybody. Listen, check it out, they go to everybody. Yo, I got myself over everybody. Yeah, every goddamn body.
In the 1960s, Roosevelt Road was considered the business strip for the west side of Chicago. Here in North Lawndale, there were stores and shops and businesses all along the street. But April 5th, 1968, the day after Martin Luther King was slain, this strip just went up in flames, flames, flames.
Those who took part in this violent tribute seized upon the assassination of their non-violent leader to express what they described as righteous indignation. It took the form of retaliation against the establishments and white storekeepers in the ghetto. It began with a broken window. Then looters, like swarms of vultures, picked through merchandise, taking what they could carry. Finally, a well-aimed Molotov cocktail, and the pattern was set. Smash, loot, burn. A gay carnival-like atmosphere prevailed. This was the one tribute Dr. King would not have wanted.
Let me say, as I've always said, a riot is the language of the unheard. What is it that America has failed to hear? It failed to hear that the plight of the Negro poor has worsened over the last few years. It failed to hear that the promises of freedom and justice have not been met. It has failed to hear that large segments of white society are more concerned about tranquility and the status quo than about justice, equality, and humanity. So in a real sense, our nation's summers of riots are caused by our nation's winters of delay. As long as America postpones justice, we stand in
nobody can't let them turn me around, Lord, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I just keep on walking, keep on talking, marching on the freedom land.
To be individuals in this country. We do not exist as individuals in this country. We must begin to hammer out an ideology of revolutionary nationalism.
It was not just a riot or just a breakdown of law and order, as the media still call it. It was a rebellion. It was a rebellion. It was a rebellion.
It's nation time to get together. Time to be one strong, fast black energy space. One pulsating, positive magnetism rising. Time to come together in unity, unified for nation time. It's nation time. It's nation time. It's nation time. Chant, rebel, America. It's nation time. It's nation time. Get up, Santa Claus. Get up, Roy Wilkins. Get up, Don Brown. Get up, Don Warwick. Get up, Don Brown.
Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges, but somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right.
Have you ever stood in the darkness of night, screaming silently, you're a man? Have you ever hoped that a time would come when your voice could be heard in a noonday sun? Have you waited so long till your unheard song has stripped away your very soul? So you believe it, my friend, that this silence can end. We'll just have to get guns and be men.
The police in our community occupy our area, our community, as a foreign troop occupies territory. And so it's very apparent that the police are only in our community, not for our security, but the security of the business owners in the community, and also to see that the status quo is kept intact.
The hottest places in hell are reserved for those who, in a period of moral crisis, maintain their neutrality. There comes a time when silence is betrayal.
It's just a bad situation. Call it what you want, it's just a concrete definition.
Rise and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
The very same forces that wrecked economies abroad for short-time gain there are swinging a giant wrecking ball toward you and your tomorrows. If that doesn't fuel you, what will? If that doesn't steal you, what will? If you would be the 99%, be the 99%. This is not only possible, it's necessary. The real deal is occupy everything. Where the people are, there should you be. Where power and wealth are hurting the people, there you should be organizing, resisting, fighting back, winning a better world. You will succeed if you fight hard enough, for despite what the corporate media echoes, the majority of the people are on your side. You're voicing their concerns, their fears, and their sense of mass betrayal. In fact, it has largely been the corporate Dow Jones reporting media that has betrayed their readers, listeners, and viewers, not only by selling the wars, but by selling their corporate visions to the world, in effect, by being their mouthpieces. That's where the big bucks are. So, to defend their masters, the lords of high finance, they will try to savage you. Know that this is but a signal of your success and a reflection of their bosses' fears. Keep on rolling. Keep on moving. And while you do it, treat each other as brothers and sisters, compañeros y compañeras. Care for each other. For that in itself will distinguish your movement from the market-driven carelessness and selfishness that characterizes the age of globalized capital. Same old has not been working for us. We need only look around us and see this. It's time for a better way. Do you wait or do you act? From Message to the Movement, this is Mumia Abu Jamal.
These commentaries are recorded by Noel Hanrahan of Prison Radio.
I'm very familiar with the perception of my home, my neighborhood. People are fearful of it. They think that it's nothing but gun violence and victims. My grandmother moved here in 1962, as so many other black families trying to purchase homes. But yet, when they purchased those homes, all of a sudden, businesses started to leave. City resources weren't deployed to this neighborhood. We were a thriving neighborhood, but we had historic, legalized theft that occurred through racist policies, and people do not know that. And they don't know that Inglewood is one of the neighborhoods that was deeply impacted by those racist policies in the 50s and 60s. So that's how you end up with neighborhoods in Chicago, primarily on Chicago's south and west side, that are predominantly black, predominantly disinvested by the city, and other neighborhoods that are predominantly white that are thriving and over-resourced. Why would a group of people that you believe are from the South Side come to downtown to loot? Why? What is the psychology behind that? I look around at where they live because I'm also their neighbor, and I can see why. I can understand the difficult life decisions people have to make as a result of living in a neighborhood that doesn't have a business corridor, that has over 15 closed schools. People aren't working who were employed in a neighborhood that had high unemployment. So when you stack all of these issues and injustices on top of each other and you land at a period where it's a pandemic that will just exacerbate everything, then it should not be surprising that a population would loot.
Let me say, as I've always said, and I will always continue to say, that riots are socially destructive and self-defeating. I'm still convinced that nonviolence is the most potent weapon available to oppress people in their struggle for freedom and justice. I feel that violence will only create more social problems than they will solve. That in a real sense it is impractical for the Negro to even think of mounting a violent revolution in the United States. So I will continue to condemn riots and continue to say to my brothers and sisters that this is not the way. Continue to affirm that there is another way. But at the same time, it is as necessary for me to be as vigorous in condemning the conditions which cause persons to feel that they must engage in riotous activities as it is for me to condemn riots. I think America must see that riots do not develop out of thin air. Certain conditions continue to exist in our society, which must be condemned as vigorously as we condemn riots. But in the final analysis, a riot is the language of the unheard. What is it that America has failed to hear? It has failed to hear that the plight of the Negro poor has worsened over the last few years. It has failed to hear that the promises of freedom and justice have not been met. And it has failed to hear that large segments of white society are more concerned about tranquility and the status quo than about justice, equality, and humanity. And so in a real sense, our nation's summers of riots are caused by our nation's winters of delay. And as long as America postpones justice, we stand in the position of having these recurrences of violence and riots over and over again. Social justice and progress are the absolute guarantors of riot prevention.
Thank you for watching the program. We want to thank Baz and Sam from INN for allowing us to present writing on the wall here in Chicago. We want to thank Lumpen Radio for giving us the opportunity to show this program on Twitch. Big thank you to Wide Awakes, to Hank and Mecca, and everybody with Wide Awakes, and also thank you again for watching. Here's your call to action. Okay, the election is coming up. Here's your chance to change the way things are. Go to whenweallvote.org. Plenty of information there for you about voting, about how to vote, how to register to vote, and events that are happening in your area to make sure that people get out and vote. Whenweallvote.org. That's your call to action. Go right now. It should be right here on the screen. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Look at all the information on how you can reach Wide Awake Chicago and all of our other affiliates. Peace.
Hola, le hablo del grupo Los Despiertos. En inglés se dice The Wide Awakes. Nosotros somos un grupo de personas creativas que creemos en la libertad y la igualdad de todas las personas. Por favor, regístrese para votar en estas elecciones muy importantes por las reformas de la justicia social que nos merecemos y que son nuestros derechos humanos. Muchas gracias.